On the phone line, Jabu Mahlangu from the South African National Civic Organization as their spokesperson, Alex Mashilo as the SACP National Spokesperson, Simpiwe Gada, Democratic Nursing Organization of South Africa, Donosa, Gauteng Chairperson, Botsang Muilwa is a political analyst joining us in studio. Good evening to you. We'll start with you, Botsang, and thanks so much for joining us. I mean, people obviously gathered at this march for various reasons. We heard some saying about be it oppression or discrimination at work, and primarily it seemed more like a hijacking and a political platform than the issues that were raised previously.
Good evening, Cindy, and good evening to the viewers. Absolutely, you are correct. You know, this is a very sad state of affairs to the workers in South Africa, especially when they are being led into a lion's den and a cave by the unionists or leaders of workers' unions who are supposed to be leading them into the right direction. And I agree with other analysts and people who have said before, this is a political grandstanding from Cosatu and its affiliates. If you look at the program they presented yesterday, what is the reason behind these marches or whatsoever, it is very difficult to can actually think if Cosatu is truly representing the interest of the working class, or do they want to drive their members, as they have done all along and all these years, to be on the side of the ruling party. And they are forgetting that what the main reason a trade union federation or organization exists is to look primarily, and not only, but primarily at the interest of the working class. Now, you are claiming to be a socialist movement or organization like Cosatu that is concerning itself with the working class and aligning itself with supposed to be communist. Yet, you go and you march and you protest in protection of white capital, in protection of the capitalists and businesses. You are talking about how business is being looted, but you are selectively talking about how white capital and the capitalists of this country are looting government business. You select a few that you think they are not conducting themselves well within the government business. You are not saying anybody who has done the government, who has done the nation and the country, must be brought to books. It is over a year now that this country has found banks, 4 national banks, conniving with 13 other international banks to deflate the currency of the country and to steal from the nation. Cosatu hasn't said a word until today. We haven't seen them taking up the streets against those capitalists and people who have taken from the poor. We haven't seen Cosatu saying a word or rising against FNB when they illegally and immorally discriminated and dismissed some of their employees. Yet they want to stand up and say Zuma must go. What does Zuma has to do with the employment of the working class? As an individual, not just as a head of state, that we can have everybody on the street who can protest against Zuma. It cannot be that every time things goes wrong in this country, people start pointing fingers and blaming one person. But when political decisions and policies were made by the tripartite alliance, the ruling party and the government, they were talking collectively. They were saying we are making this decision as a collective of the tripartite alliance. Now suddenly they start pointing fingers at an individual, not even at a group of people, at one individual that is supposed to be the president of the country. Where is the collective? Where is the entire NEC of the ruling party? Where is the entire 400 MPs who are passing laws in the National Assembly plus the cabinet? And that's not what I'm hearing from the working group.
All right, but let's get Mr. Jabu Mahlangu, Sanko's spokesperson, to respond. Good evening to you and thanks so much for joining us. Essentially, the criticism being that there's a selective or myopic view at what really plagues this country, the challenges of unemployment, joblessness, unemployment, poverty and inequality, that Cosatu and its alliance partners were selective in how they want to deal with those issues by nitpicking on those that they deem guilty of corruption.
Well, good evening. First of all, Franco's position with regards to the initiative taken both by Cosatu and the SACP, including the ANC, because I know that some of the provinces and regions have been part of the march, is that we support every initiative taken by communities to express their view, either for support or against things that they feel uncomfortable about, be it matters that are carried out by government and or private sector. In this regard, SANCO's view, and indeed we've been raising this matter for quite a long time, we are indeed disappointed that government has not moved fast enough to appoint the Judicial Commission of Inquiry on state capture. One of the things that we had learned that part of the march was all about. So it is actually said that we do not have that Commission of Inquiry so that people against whom allegations have been made can go there and clear themselves. The issue of question of unemployment and so on and other things, indeed there is a lot that the country has achieved in creating opportunities. There is a lot that still needs to be done. Indeed, and there is a lot of role players. Government has a responsibility to create an environment. Private sector has a responsibility to come and occupy the space and invest. But indeed, there is a lot that we are not doing right as a people, as a country, private sector and government. And the recent KPMG aspect that was raised, I mean, questions of corruption in private sector, questions of corruption in the government, denies the poor, the unemployed, as well as those people whose rights are violated, sufficient protection. I think as SANCO, those are the people that are primarily our constituency, and anything that does not favor them affects us in a bad way.
Mr. Masango, please stay on the line. We have Simphiwe Gada. He is the Democratic Nursing Organization of SA Gauteng chairperson. Mr. Gada, thanks so much for your time. Just a response to the criticism that this was a diversion from real issues and that you also opted for strange bid partners to participate in this march, that primarily being Business Unity South Africa or the very multinationals that could do more in dealing with issues of inequality and transformation.
Well, thank you for having us. I'm here as the PC member of Cosatu in Gauteng as a chairperson. I want to first clarify that. Well, I would disagree with the view that we are diverting issues. I think that millions of South Africans would agree with me that the issues that have been diagnosed, in the lead to this march, which in fact we have seen a decline in the performance of the ruling party. These are the issues that many South Africans have been raising. And at the end of the day, we cannot sit by as a trade union federation that represents, millions of workers. We cannot sit by and while the workers are suffering on a daily basis. We have seen the increment of unemployment. We have seen the challenges that our government continues to face on a daily basis. I mean, it is not normal that even in the same government, you'd find that people are talking in different directions. So it tells you that there is something that is wrong. And hence, we have decided that as the federation, that we should be able to stand up, take to the streets, and be able to flag these issues.
But I mean, I think it's about the scope, whether, there's a limitation, it seems, in terms of the genesis of where the corruption starts, as opposed to looking at where it is most entrenched, which is prior to even 94. And we've seen other examples of bad corporate governance in terms of collusive businesses, etc., and that you're not touching on.
Well, I wouldn't agree that we are not touching. I think on a daily basis, Cosatu has been raising the issues that the corruption is not only limited to the public sector. Corruption is also rife, especially in the private sector. And I think today, if people were to, check where were the memorandums that were they delivered only in state entities? And the answer is no, we did go to the mines, and that is the private sector to flag these issues. So we are not only closing ourselves to say that we blame, we were saying that corruption is only done by government only. But we have witnessed corruption. I think as well, if you are to check what is it that has contributed to the increase in the unemployment rate, is because people, the private sector in particular, is on an investment strike. They are not investing back into the country. But what we should be also doing is to ask ourselves, why are they not investing back into the country? And we cannot, deny the things that are there, because it matters how the private sector views the government of the day, and that also plays an influence on the stance that they've taken in terms of going on an investment strike.
Yeah, well, what would you agree that that's what's repelling investors?
I totally
or whether
disagree.
It's been the policy uncertainty, as it's been called?
I totally disagree, Cindy. Primarily, when the chairperson, and with due respect, started speaking, he mentioned that the government of the day is under siege, and the government is not performing what it's supposed to be performing. But Cosatu itself and the SACP, they are part of the government. By means or by virtue of them being part of the tripartite alliance and having its senior leaders and members serving in various government structures, not only in political positions, even administrative positions, they form part of government. So they cannot come today and say the government is failing when they are part of government and part of the ruling party. That's one element. Two, the business sector in this country, we can check historically, and Cosatu is a socialist organization. They have never been interested in investing in this country, but they've been invested in exploiting the country. Now, for them today to defend, and now he's defending the private sector actually, which is very worrying, that he's saying, obviously they will look at the government of the country, they will look at the challenges in the country and the policies, and they will disinvest or hold back. But they've never done that. They've never disinvested. They've been exploiting in this country, maximizing profits. Jobs have been lost throughout the years since 1994, and I don't want to go to prior 1994. Since 1994, jobs in the mining sector, the manufacturing sector, the agricultural sector have been going down, they have not been going up. Are they saying the policies of the ruling party or of the government have been wrong since 1994? That's why we've been losing jobs. And why didn't Cosatu, with their new bad partners today, who happens to be business, did not march against business and the ruling party itself? Because today what's happening is actually a joke that Cosatu is marching against the ANC, their partner, and then they are being supported by the business sector to march against who exploiting the country, who is owning 90% of mineral resources and business in this country. It is not government. Even what government owns, the little that government owns, they are giving it to the private companies, to the business sector, which are primarily owned by white capital to do business with government. Now, you take the same people, they're exploiting the workers, they're exploiting government, they are cheating the nation through Forex, and then you march with those people to say things are wrong in the country. That cannot be the correct version of events.
I see the placards that your members had, Mr. Gadia. Not captured, state capture, Zuma must go. Why would we not look at this as primarily a sideshow for the so-called regime change agenda and specifically the support for Cyril Ramaphosa? Where there does it say that, private sector in itself is not being patriotic or not investing in the country, therefore denying us the economic growth that we deserve?
I think, one, let me deal with this question. You see, it is wrong to purport that if things are wrong, you see, if things are wrong even in your own household where you are a family member, it doesn't mean that because now you are a family member, you cannot raise your views. I think that's the first thing that we must deal with, that it is wrong to expect Cosatu to keep quiet when it's at the end of when it's able to see that things are not going correct. That perception is wrong. We must be able to understand that Cosatu is an autonomous organization and Cosatu is not government. Cosatu, yes, is in the alliance, but we must be able to draw a line of distinction between government, between even the ANC or the alliance component. We cannot say that now that Cosatu is part of the alliance, therefore Cosatu must keep quiet. I don't think that is correct. Then to come back to the question that we are raising. One, I think the stance that has been taken by Cosatu has been deliberated upon in the CEC, and they've advanced their reasons why they are saying that the president must step down. And part of those reasons is the fact that you'd understand that when President Zuma was supported back in 2007, there were concessions that were made, there were deals that were made to say that these are the things that workers must be able to achieve. And when Cosatu is saying that those things that had been agreed upon are not happening, is Cosatu supposed to fold its arms? I don't think so. Cosatu must be able to speak. But at the same time, to reduce this much to say that it was an issue of promoting Cyril Ramaphosa, I don't think that is also correct, because there is no placard that was held by the people that was saying Cyril for president. All those placards that were there were speaking primarily to the issues that have been raised by the memorandums, which the first memorandum we delivered to the city of Joburg. The second memorandum we delivered to FNB, which is all the banks were represented, and then we went to the Chamber of Mines, which also Department of Labor also came to collect a memorandum there. So I don't think that is correct to say that we are defending business. We are not defending business. We are not going to defend business, and that is why we continue to flag this issue. If we were defending business, then Cosatu would simply say that unions must close shop and be in the same bed with business, because on a daily basis we keep talking about the issues of labor broking, which business, by the way, is something that is promoting and something that we are opposed to. It's also something that the government of the day is saying that they don't want to ban labor brokers, but they want to regulate. So all those issues is issues that we as Cosatu are opposed to. And if you were to look at the labor laws of this country, if you were to compare the labor laws of this country post-94 and even now, then you'd understand why Cosatu is standing up. Because what we're seeing a revision and a rewrite of the labor laws, which expose workers to exploitation, expose workers to bad working conditions. So those are the things that we are raising as well, to say under this presidency we expected better. And what is happening now is not the issues that had been expected.
All right, Mr. Gata, I think you've had your fair share to speak. Let's just interrogate that, Botsang, because as you're saying, I don't know at which point you divorce yourself from the tripartite alliance, considering that you would have SACP members in key positions in the ANC-led government. And secondly, where is Cosatu over this from 2007, as you were saying, in trying to deal or remedy the difficult plight of workers?
And that is actually my problem, Cindy. And I'm glad the official of Cosatu here has mentioned that towards Polokwane, there were resolutions. And part of the deal they had, you see, that was wrong for Cosatu representing the working class to go and enter into a deal with Jacob Zuma to say, this is the deal, we'll put you forward if you deliver this. It's okay to have expectations, but then Jacob Zuma does not deliver from 2007 to 2012. They vote him back into power. Jacob Zuma does not deliver from 2012 until, according to them, there's no delivery until 2017. Then we have the Save South Africa campaign. You look at all the placards here. You look at all the readings. You look at the statement which Cosatu issued officially yesterday in their challenge South Africans to go and draw that statement and draw the statement of the march and the protest that the Save South Africa campaign did few months back. It is actually a carbon copy of the same thing. Now Cosatu is divorcing itself from its tripartite alliance, except the SACP, which joined the bandwagon today. They're divorcing themselves from the ruling party that they have helped to put into power, because they have helped to put Jacob Zuma into power. And they're aligning themselves with Save South Africa campaign, which is actually predominantly as well former ANC leaders, former Cosatu and SACP leaders, and former public servants who are now in the comfortable chairs of business in South Africa. You talk of Bani Pichana, he's sitting on the comfortable chairs of mines. You look at Mr. Cyril Ramaphosa himself, a very well successful businessman who's the founder of the NUM. You look at James Motlati, the former president of Cosatu. Yeah. He's sitting in all these positions.
I'm sorry, we're going to have to wrap it up there. Mr. Mahlangu, very briefly, in your view, of what value was today's march to workers, the poor and the marginalized?
Well, as Franco, as I said, we welcome this kind of initiative. Any expression, any move that people take to air their views go a long way to sensitize authority, to sensitize those in power about the plight of our people. It's a journey that we are going to travel. If Cosatu marches against the ANC, and indeed I wouldn't say they march against the president, they march against the government of the ANC, then all the right, including members of the ANC, have a right to take their matters to the street. It is the exercise of the constitutional right by individuals in South Africa. South Africa is a constitutional country. People must express their views in public when they want to, in any other sector. So I think we shouldn't be concerned about
or too precious as to where people expresses themselves or their views. We're going to leave it there. Jabu Mahlangu, Sanko's spokesperson, on the line, and we have the Cosatu PEC member, Simpiwe Gada, joining us.
Can I just make one last point?
We have a pre-recorded program, so I'm really at pains.
No,
I'll take
fine.
it offline, and thanks, Mutsang Mwila, as our political analyst. You at home, our most valued panelists, thanks indeed for joining us. Up next, the ANC decides with Mfundo Mabalane. Coming up just after this.